BT's Business Report is sponsored by Dynamic Funds.
And we say good morning to Mike Eppel today, of course, with the latest on business. Could be good news for the restaurant and the bar industry. We're hearing that the Ford government may be starting to ease some of those pandemic restrictions. We just got to wait for those details.
Yeah, that's just it, Tammy. Good morning. The waiting is the hardest part, right? As the song used to say. The premier is reportedly going to do a news conference tomorrow to unveil some of the reopening plans. What is it, 3.0 now, for restaurants, bars, and gyms who have been, let's face it, quite upset with the fact that, the stadiums are filled to capacity, movie theaters are filled to capacity, which are much more, a greater number of people kind of jammed together than what you might see at a restaurant, for example, or at a gym. And they're saying, hey, what about us? Well, it might get some clarity tomorrow. On a Friday, no less. And then moving forward, why do they seem to make those announcements on Friday? Yeah, it seems to be the big day. And then, further reopening maybe next week. Again, we don't specifically know the details. But then you get back to the whole, okay, well, the mixed signals, I suppose, for lack of a better description. Reading this morning that Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland saying that, yeah, just because the U.S. is reopening the border to Canadian travelers expected early next month, doesn't necessarily mean that we should just be ready to go and travel, because the COVID numbers in the States are still pretty high. So, again, you get these, you want to do things and get back to normal, and then they're saying, well, maybe wait a little bit more. You just have to still use the idea that things aren't necessarily back to normal. So it's difficult when you're talking about making any plans, whether it is your business operations or for vacation travel or what have you. It's still a little bit up in the air.
It's almost the moment that you get that feeling that, okay, things are going back to normal because these reopenings are happening. You get that message saying, maybe slow down, pump the brakes a bit.
Slow down. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, pumping the brakes. Gas.
That's right.
Gas prices about to go back up. Yeah, right. It is a bit. Yeah. Gas prices, though, they're extremely high right now, but also on the way up again.
Yeah, $1.46 is what we're going to see here in the GTA tomorrow, which would be yet another record. And every time we get a price hike above these levels is going to be an all-time high, as the price for oil this morning is above $81 per barrel and getting more expensive. We're seeing all sorts of buying in Europe right now and in China, and it's having a ripple effect through the global markets. The only offset, I suppose, is the fact that the Canadian dollar this morning is at almost 81 cents US. So there is a little bit of stability coming from the currency trade because the price for oil is priced in US dollars. Then we get back to this whole idea that central banks have been saying that all of these inflationary pressures are going to go away or be transitory or settle down. Reading this morning that the big Canadian banks are saying maybe not so much. The head of the Royal Bank, Dave Mackay, at a conference yesterday saying they're seeing wage prices, wage inflation, the labor market ripple effect that's having, everything from transportation costs, housing, you name it, it's all getting more expensive. And the cost of living is on the rise. The latest reading on U.S. inflation's at a 13-year high, 5.4%. Is that going to calm down anytime soon? We'll see.
We'll see. Rent. Now, we know that during the pandemic, rent prices, of course, started to take a dip, especially in the downtown area where people were fleeing. Yep. But now it looks like as we start to reopen and things get back to normal, that normal hike in rent is about to hit again.
Starting to climb up. It's up 5 months in a row, but it's still well below the 2019 levels, so pre-pandemic by about $350 a month, according to rentals.ca and Bullpen Research. We're at around $1,900 for a one-bedroom, $2,300 for a two-bedroom here in the city, and it is getting more expensive. Look, when the pandemic shut everything down, you had a lot of Airbnb operators that all of a sudden found their properties sitting empty. So they were really lowering rental costs right off the bat. You're right. We did not see the influx of students coming into the city. certainly foreign students to the universities and colleges, and a big swing to the downside for rent. But this trend is starting to creep back up, still a little cheaper, and there is still rental properties available, which is kind of interesting because for the longest time, I didn't see that either, that there were vacancies in any of these buildings.
And you start to wonder, are we going to go back to that time where there were no vacancies and it was so tough to get an apartment to rent, especially in a city like Toronto?
I think what we're starting to see is the predictions that things are going to be different might be borne out to be that things are going to go back to where they were in certain parts of the economy, whether that is, the rental market specifically. Look, we went through a shock, an economic shock, let's face it, and trying to figure out what was going to happen next, it was a guessing game. And, they say the more things change, the more things stay the same. You might see the pendulum effect swinging back the other way for rental prices.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Once again, always lovely to see you. See you tomorrow.
See you later.
And as we just discussed with Mike, of course, the possibility that the province will be easing capacity limits in restaurants tomorrow. We are at risk of a spike in COVID-19 infection. City News reporter Cynthia Mulligan looks at the science of that. That's coming up right after the break. Stay with us.